Welcome to the integration framework of SAP Business One Training, how to build a B1 to B1 scenario with the integration framework. During this session, we will focus on building a scenario to integrate two SAP Business One systems. We will also set up the scenario, debug it, and test it for running. As a prerequisite for this session, I will recommend you to go over the previous theory sessions and also the previous exercises, as this exercise is a bit more complex than the previous ones and requires some basic concepts that we reviewed in previous exercise that will not be reviewed in detail during this session. We are going to start with a case analysis, and then we are going to see the configuration needed in Business One, and then we will start with the development of the package itself for the inbound, outbound and processing, and then we are going to go for the setup and activation of the package, and then at the end a test. Let's start with the diagram of what we want to develop. We have one subsidiary Business One, we have one headquarters company running Business One, and we want to have the intercompany scenario working between this subsidiary and headquarters. So we'll create a purchase order in the subsidiary. This will be handled by B1if. That will retrieve some information from the headquarters company, some information from the subsidiary company. We'll analyze whether the purchase order will be for the headquarters or not. And then, in the case it is for the headquarters, B1if will transform the message, and then we'll create a sales order in the headquarters company. So let's start the configuration needed in Business One. You will have two companies, one the subsidiary, one the headquarters. The subsidiary company will be buying some goods in the headquarters. So the subsidiary company, when it will be creating the purchase order, needs to have a vendor that is representing the headquarters company. And the same way around, in the headquarters company, the sales order that will be created by B1if will need to have a customer, and the customer will represent the subsidiary company. So in the purchase order, we need to have a vendor that will be the headquarters, and the headquarters company needs to have a customer that will represent the subsidiary. We will use SBO demo US, that's the headquarters company, and then my subsidiary will be SBO demo FR. In the subsidiary, I have in the business partner one headquarters vendor, and in my headquarters company I have a customer that is my headquarters. First of all, we create a scenario package, and this will be our scenario package for the whole exercise. We are in the integration framework. We go for the scenarios, package design, and we just remove what is written there, and I will just put the name web for webinar B1 to B1 scenario. I just press tab. You see all the information is removed. I will not require any authentication here. I can give a description, webinar demo B1 to B1, and the scenario step we will work on it afterward. I save it. So I have my scenario package ready to be used. In the scenario package, we will need to have some variables in order to keep some information. In the subsidiary company, we need to have a vendor that will be the headquarters, and in the headquarters company we need a customer that will be the subsidiary customer. How B1if will know when the purchase order is coming, the vendor is headquarters or not, and when the sales order will be created. How we know in which client the sales order needs to be created for. In order to identify that customers and vendor in both sides, we will create what is called a global table in B1if, and then we will save per each one of the systems. We will save what is the business partner code. We will do first of all is to define what is called a global table, where we can have several names with several values. So let's start creating the global tables. We will give a name for that global table, sys properties table, and then we will say how many columns and lines we want to have. 2 fields in order to create 2 properties that we will call sysid and business partner ID code. So let's do that in our environment. Definitions, global tables. Now we know the name is sys properties table. So this is my new table, sys properties table. And now how many fields we want. So we can have 2 dimensions, but let's start with one dimension with 2 variables. I make a new. So I have 2 fields, and I can give the display length, the maximum length, let's say 20. Label is sysid, BPID code. Both of them I will just make them text. I could have an automatic selection for systems. I could make a filter or say it's a boolean or something like that. Let's leave it empty. And I could also make a check to say check if it is a number or a decimal, alpha, numeric, boolean. I press generate and I can close it. Let me double check it is there. So if we go to definitions, global tables, then you see that I have my table defined, only defined. We haven't put any value on it. So usually this is done during development. We create the global table, and then during implementation in the customer side, you will fill the value. So just save to have the scenario with the global table correctly saved. Let's start designing the scenario step. We will call it purchase order to sales order. To define the step, I need to go to step design. In the step design, you have a button new that removes everything in the screen. So you enter your step identifier. I call it web, and then I need to assign it. And now I can select my web B1 scenario package. So it has been created. Now it doesn't have any definition, and the work now is to make all the definitions for that scenario package. We save it each step. Let's start with the inbound channel, and there we will see that we will receive from SAP Business One asynchronously, because it will be an event. And for the identifier, we will select a purchase order that is object number 22. So we press inbound, and then channel, and then we go for the inbound type. First of all, SAP Business One. The processing mode, there is no choice, is always asynchronous when it started from Business One. It's an event. We will have the event coming up. The identification mode, it has an automatically detection by B1 event. It knows how to read the information. And then for the identifier, we will say which object is it. So you see that you have the numbers, and aside you have the explanation. So here we see that 22 is the purchase order, is the one we want to receive the event from. We select it, and that's it. Now we can save it, as our channel inbound is defined. We don't need any identification namespace. So we can close that channel. Our inbound channel is defined here. So you see that it's making inbound Business One events asynchronous, and event one more time for the transformation. So this is the first definition, the channel. Now we need to work on the retrieval. So let's go for the retrieval. In the retrieval, we can say what is the way to retrieve the information. So in the event, we will only receive the object type and the doc entry, so the key information. And then we need to use another way of retrieving the whole information. We can use SQL or DI API, and then we will see the retrieval type can be an object or a service in the DI API. So let me go and define the retrieval. In the retrieval, the adapter, we will say that is DI API. You could have JDBC. The one that are between parentheses means they are not yet implemented, not yet available. So we have DI API. The retrieval type will be object. You have the choice between object and service. And we don't need any retrieval control documents. This is for file systems, etc. So that's it. We don't need to specify any details. Close it. And then we have the data retrieval from the API object. We can close it, and then we have our inbound ready. We can save it, and then here we have the whole definition of the inbound. So we have B1 event asynchronous from the DI API, and is it an object? The next step is the outbound, where we are going to send that information. We are going to send it to SAP Business One. We are going to use a DI object. We could use also a service, but in our case we just want a DI object, and the object we want to insert is a sales order, and we can say which method we want to use. So let's have a look here, and then we can see the different propositions we have. So the outbound channel for the moment is unknown. Let's say Business One, and then the outbound format. We can choose between DI object, DI service, SQL, we're gonna SQL multiple. In that case we just do DI object. Details we need to express, and then we need to say which method we want to use. Synchronous insert, insert with fallback to update. In case the object already exists, it will fall back to update. Synchronous update with fallback to insert in case it doesn't exist. Synchronous close or synchronous delete. Let's go to insert with fallback to update. Select, and we need to say which object we want to create. We have the whole list, so we want to create a sales order that is number 17. We select it, and then we can save it here. We can close. We can save it here, so you see details are empty until you save. Now they are available here. Insert update 17 doc entry, and then we can just close here, and then we have our outbound completely filled. DI object, insert update 17, and the key is doc entry. We can save it, so we have inbound and outbound defined. We will go now for the processing. As soon as we create a scenario step, we have already this flow that is automatically created, including one simple XSLT transformation. As we saw in the previous exercises, we can add more steps on it, and then we can define different types of atoms. That each one of these boxes is called an atom. Let's start creating the flow. Here it proposed that you create the whole flow, and then we go one by one and we actualize. I will propose to create one by one and to understand what is each one of them before we go for the whole flow. We will start with this first atom. That will be an X-form, that will be a call to XSLT. This step will be there in order to read the global table. Let's start the processing by creating a simple X-form atom. So we start the processing. We have one final atom on it, and then we will just add one atom more that will be of type XSLT transformation. We add it. Now it has been successfully added. As soon as we close it, we have it here. We can edit the information of that atom. So you see it's atom1.xsl. So this will be the identifier when we will try to edit it afterwards. I have the description, global table select, and between the brackets I have global table. So this information, if I save it now and I close it, you see that before it was called Xform, and now will be called global table. So we said this first step will be there to retrieve the information from the global table, because the next step will be a branch. We need to have the information ready for the branch to use a variable already analyzed before. I'll be jumping back and forth in the presentation in order to be able to show you really how it works. That first atom, the role will be to get the information from the global table. So we created the global table. You remember our system ID and business partner. Let me fill that table first of all, so you understand what is in there. Once we have created our table, we have created our inbound, outbound, and processing. At the end we will activate our step, and we will fill the data information in the customer side. Now we are debugging, and I would like to show you how to do it the way around. So we will debug first and then understand what needs to be done for the processing. So here in the scenario setup, once we have selected our scenario package, we have a data management button that we can press, and we can select any of the variables or properties we defined in our development side. So we can select our sys properties table, and then here insert some values on it. we will enter per each one of the system ID what is the business partner that is associated for the filtering. I need to have my subsidiary in my headquarters, and I need to identify what are the system IDs. So the SBO B1if B12B1 is 001, 0000, and then 101. And then I have my headquarters company that is 001, SAP, 3 zeros and 1. I go to my setup and I will define the information for my table. So I will go to data management. I have my table, sys properties table XML. I select it. And I want to insert new values. So I insert a first value for my company subsidiaries 001, 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, 101. And the business partner code identifying that company is SAP B1if. If I had several subsidiaries, I could have several systems here, each one with the identifier of the corresponding company. Then I will create for the headquarters. I will say 001 SAP 1, 2, 3 zeros and 1. So when the receiver will be that system, the sales order will be filtering against headquarters B1if. Don't forget to click somewhere else after finishing entering the value. So let's close it. We will not implement anything yet. We will do it afterwards. First of all, we save it. And now what I want to do is to debug it in order to show you how we will proceed in order to evaluate and get all the information. I will go to the setup and I will select my scenario. I need to activate my steps. I only have one. Save. Now I close it. So I have one step activated of 1. I need to say what is my sender and my receiver system. So I go to the sender list, and then it will propose me different Business One systems. So I said the sender is the subsidiary company and my subsidiary company is SBO B1if B12B1. I save it. Save. And I close it. So my sender list is now ready. The receiver, I will say, is my headquarters company. That was my SBO Demo US. So I select it as a receiver. I save it. Okay. And then I close here. So now I have the steps activated, the sender and the receiver defined. Now everything is ready. I can activate my scenario. I activate it. And what I want to do now is to debug it first time to show you what is the information we have in the message regarding that table and how we can analyze it to get it into our processing. First of all, what I will need to do is to go to my subsidiary company and create one purchase order against my headquarters company. For this item A00001 and quantity number 2, unit price 400 euros. So I add it. And now I have the purchase order number 275. So if I go now to B1if, I can go to monitoring and I can start looking at the event monitor first of all to see if I have received any message. So I go to the success list and I check whether I have a message just received right now. And I see that I have from SBO B1if B12B1 object ID 22 with doc entry 275. The event sender has captured the event and sent it to B1if. Now I can go to the message log and I can say display refresh. It will show me all messages from today. Shouldn't be too much. So you see that I have from sender system SBO B1if B12B1, the object 22, the receiver is SBO Demo US, and I have received the event. Of course, the resource message is an error because I haven't formatted anything, so our processing is completely empty, so it's normal that it fails. But my goal doing that is to have a message in order to be able to debug. So to be able to debug, as soon as you have run it once, and in the development environment you have defined that you want to record test messages per each one of the runs you do. So this we saw already in the setting up the development environment. I can go to Scenario, Step Design again. I go to Processing, and now I can go to Test. In Test, what we will do is to debug, because I want to debug to show you what are the different informations we have in each one of these steps. So first of all, we need to say what is the test sender and receiver system. So for the sender, we said is the SBO demo FR. The receiver system is the SBO demo US. I don't have a test user-based business one. Inbound message, so because I have run it once, if I go here, now I have a rec test XML, so you see it has been saved today. I select it. I can save now, so I save that configuration regarding sender and receiver test systems and the inbound message. Now I can run it and I can debug it. And when I debug it, we can see how is the status of the message in each one of the steps. So we need first of all to implement our global table, and so first of all we will see what is inside the message. So we will have some header information, and we will have some body information with the event. So you say that coming from SBO demo FR object 22 transaction add the user code of the manager and doc entry 275. I have received the event and I have the whole information about the purchase order, and now we don't have anything else because our message is empty. So first of all, we will need to concentrate in reading the global table. So let's go back to the slides and see how we can read the global table information we have. So first of all, we need to know what is this global table. If you use XML Spy, once we have filled the information in that global table, we have one file, one XML file that contains the information we saved. I have my Artoba XML, and if you have web tab activated, you can browse here. I will prompt you for the B1i admin password. Here we have all the folders of B1if, and here all the scenarios we have developed, and even Business One scenarios, SAP scenarios, we have them here. So you have PBIU for all the steps and VPack for all the packages. The table information was in the level of the package. So if we go to VPack demo web B12B1, we can see that we have a sys properties table.xml, and we can open it, format it, and then you see that we have the table information with one row per each one of the lines we enter it in the table, and one column per each one of the properties we filled. So we have system SBO demo US with the corresponding business partner, and this was SBO demo FR with the corresponding partner. So we have the information here. Now we need to read that information, and we will stock it in our processing as an internal variable. Here it shows the screen capture of what we saw, the sys property table information. And here we see how we read this properties table. So we need to use the document function that is available in B1if, and we need to say what is the path to the properties table XML file. So we saw it was com, SAP, B1i, vPlatform, scenarios design, VPack with your namespace and the name of the package, and then the name of the table.xml. So we need to go and load that document. This is what is doing this first part. And once this document loaded, we are going to go over the table. So we see that we have a table first element, and we have several rows. So we need to loop for each one of the rows. We will look for some information regarding the sender and receiver system. Headquarters system code, I will define a variable to get it from the message, header, receiver list, receiver. You see message, header, receiver list, and then the ID, I get it from the receiver list, receiver. And the sender, here we have message, header, sender ID. For the sender, the variable is already defined in our XSLT transformation. So let's go to our XSLT. We can open URL and then go to our VIU this time, always inside design, scenarios design, and then we have web PO to SO, and there we need to open our atom. We can know what is our atom by just looking in our processing. In the information we have atom 1, so we see that this atom 1 is corresponding to this XSLT transformation. We set this atom 1, this transformation. Let's open it, pretty print it. We need to put some transformation here inside XSL template name transform. So first of all, we will need to define our variable. So we need to define one variable containing this headquarters system code here. So I will define the variable called headquarters system code from message header receiver list receiver ID. Here we have the XSLT transformation, and then I paste it here, pretty print so we saw it further. So here we are going to read the document that is at com SAP B1if scenarios design, the name of our package, don't copy it without replacing it. My package was called web B12B1, and then the name of the file. Then we go over the table row and we search for this headquarters system and we copy what is inside. So we will copy all the information regarding that from the sys property table. And for the sender, we don't define a variable because it's already ready to be used. We could have also used the receiver one. So BP sender is the sender that is obtained from message header sender ID, and has already one for the object and one already predefined for the receiver that we could have used. We have here our XSLT transformation and we can save it. Now we can rerun it. So I go to the processing, I can test it again, I have all my information field, run it, debug it. There seems to be a problem, there's one missing here to close the message, so that can happen mainly because I'm copying from the presentation PowerPoint. Some signs are wrongly copied. Here you see that the sign is a bit different than the basic one, and the same here. So after you copy paste, maybe you can review them and change all the single codes, change it everywhere. Save it one more time and let me rerun it again. Run it and debug it. So this time it went through. So before the global table we haven't changed anything. We have our header, we have our body with the event and the payroll S for the sender. So this is what the DI API has retrieved, the whole information, and the event only had the doc entry. Now we implemented the global table and we should have something afterwards that has changed. In the header we didn't change anything, the event we didn't change, sender we didn't change, but now we have a new payload with role X for XSL transformation coming from our atom 1, and you see that we have two rows. The first row has copied the information for the headquarters system regarding the business partner, and the second row has copied the information from the sender system regarding the business partner for the subsidiary. We have our information that was only in that system table properties file, now is inside our processing, and we can use it in the next step. So our first step of our processing is ready, we have tested it, everything is working. Next steps will be to continue the design of our flow. We have done that one. Now we go for creating this branch on branch side. We will do a branch, and depending on the path that we will specify, we will do the transformation and send it to the receiver, or if the path is not the right one, so if the test of the business partner is not the right one, we will just ignore it and then throw it away. So let's start by creating our flow the same way as it is here. We go to our processing, we add a new atom after the global table, and we will do a conditional processing that is corresponding for our branch. So we close. So now our branch on branch is there. So let's continue creating more steps. In the branch, we can, as soon as we push there, we have our path that appears here. Then we can add some atoms. We will add two XSLT transformations. One for the case the path is the one we selected, so we have the right business partner. And in the case the business partner is not the one we want, we will do another XSLT transformation that will be ignoring the message and not sending anything. We can just put some clear names here. So this one will be the sales order transformation, SO transformation. Let's make it short. So we save it and we close it, and you see that now we can see more clearly what is inside. And we do the same for this ignore, we will call it, and it will be represented by ignore. Save it, close here. We need to select a path based on the information from the global table to filter the purchase order and only pass to the transformation the ones that we need really to send to the headquarters company. We need to do the path. For the path, we need to get the information that this atom retrieved and filter it. So when we define a path, we give an XPath expression that will be the one that will be analyzed to see if it goes to the path or it goes to the next step, to the otherwise, or to another path. So we can have several paths, and it will go to each one of the paths that is getting through. It will go to all of them, not only one. So it's not exclusive. It will go to all the paths where the validation is true. And then after the execution, it will go to the next step in the line where the path is created. So this is the path we need to have. We will analyze it just now with the debugger. When we edit it in the XPath, we need to filter it. I just copied it and close it. So we are going to look in the purchase order what is the car code of the vendor, and then we are going to look for the system of the receiver, and we are going to look what is the identifier as a business partner for that receiver system. If we debug it, we can see it a bit more clear. So let's test one more time. Let's run it, and let's go to debug. We have our flow. We can see before the path that our path we are filtering is taken. In the message body payload where ID atom 1, then column 1. So message body payload where ID is atom 1 is going row by row, is going to the column 1, and comparing what is in the message body payload with role SBO BO documents row car code. So we go and open the payroll SBO BO documents row and car code. So it's comparing that value with the one that is associated to the headquarters company here. It's filtering based on the car code of the purchase order and regarding what we define in our system global table. If we look in our debug, we see that the branch now is going to this sales order transformation. If we create a purchase order with a different vendor, then it will go to the otherwise and then ignore it. So in that case, our path was correct. It goes to the sales order transformation. We can do a test afterwards with a different vendor, and we will see that it will go to a different path. For the moment, let's leave it like that. We will continue the development of the different steps, and then at the end, in the final test, we will do some testing to see that it goes to the otherwise branch. Now we need to edit our sales order transformation. In our processing, our sales order transformation, if we look at it, we see that is atom 3 XSL, so we need to edit atom 3 XSL in our XML spy. In this atom 3, we will need to go for the templates transform and then put our code inside it. and here we have a sample code what we need to put in it. It's creating two variables, one for doc entry code, one for doc num code. If you create variables, it makes clear afterwards for reading that. I want to create a new project. I just save it like webinar demo. Like another folder that is PO2SO. Here we should add the system properties file we had in our BIS package. So BIS package demo web B12B1. So we could have here in the root level our sys properties, and then in our PO2SO we'll add the URL. So next time when you open it, you have all the files that you need for managing your scenario already open. So we are demo webinar PO2SO, and we said we want to edit atom 3. Print. So this is our empty transformation, and here is where we want to define our transformation. First of all, we will define our variables, one for doc entry, one for doc num, that we take from the message body payload with role S, and then BOM BO documents row doc entry and BOM BO documents row doc num. So this is the variables. And now we will go to the next step, and then we will create our code. Our code should be something like that, B1 out, but in that case, because we have a branch, B1I needs to know afterwards, in the final, needs to know how to transform that and to send it to the receiver. So when we have a branch, we use this final transformation element as a root tag, so the final will retrieve only the final transformation without taking care where it is coming from. It's just taking the final step, the final transformation that will be given by any of these paths. So we use a namespace that we will retrieve in the final. We define that final atom result that we need, of course, to close. And inside, we need to create the Business One format that we want to send to Business One. We have two possible formats to do it. We have one format when we start with B1 out, and we simply say type object, and then we give the information about all the information we need depending on the kind of objects, in that case documents, document lines. So this is the XML format of the DI API, nothing else. Or we can specify the kind of object, the specific type of object we want to use. So in that case we want to create a sales order, number 17 is the identifier. So the information afterwards is the same one, it's just that here we use B1 out, and here we use BOM BO admin info, and then the same information. Both formats work fine. Let me choose that one. So here I have my BOM BO, then admin info, and then documents, and one row with car code, doc currency, reference 1, reference 2, comments, doc due date, nomad card, etc. And here we are taking the information from the message body payload from atom 1, that was the global table, and then we are taking the information for the sender information. So we are taking the business partner that was associated to the sender system. So if we look at our global table, this was the sender system, and then the sales order will be created with car code that is specified here. So for the sender system, that is the subsidiary. So when we create the sales order in the headquarters, we need to create it against a customer, and the customer identifier that the sender system is this sub 1 B1if. So each one of the subsidiaries will define what is his identifier in the headquarters as a subsidiary. Then we will copy from the original message BOM, BO, documents, row, doc currency. So we will copy all that from the sender information. In my case, I have different currency from both systems, so let me just remove the currency element, because I have one French and one US, one in dollar, one in euro. So I just leave the documents information with car code, reference 1, reference 2, I will add the same comments that I had in the original purchase order, the same doc due date. In the NumMap card, I will put purchase order, and then I will copy the doc num code and the doc entry code from the original message. The NumMap card will be pointing to the purchase order in the subsidiary company. For the document lines, I'm just copying line num, item code, quantity, price, and let me also remove the currency. So I can test it now. Run. I just want to test that my step is correct. So if it goes to the next one, is that there is no exception. If there was a problem on my XSLT transformation, then you will see here the red arrow before my transformation, and you will not see any red arrow afterwards. What means it has been blocked here if it doesn't go further. So before the sales order transformation, the message is as before, header, body with the events, the sender, and the X part with the global table information. And after the transformation, I have the header, I have the event, I have the sender, I have the X, and I have a second X for atom 3, with now all the information I put on it, final atom result with BOM, BO, admin info, documents, etc., etc. So my transformation has worked fine. Let's do now the ignore part. The ignore part is also an XSLT transformation. We will search for the transform part, and we will define a variable for the sender car code. So we will obtain from the sender, we will obtain the car code, and we will create also the same final atom result. So the final step can know where to take the information, and we will just use that line that is called B1if skip. So this line is an internal code in B1if that means skip that message. When you send it at the end, nothing will be done, nothing will be sent to the receiver system. Just skip that message. And we can give an explanation why we skip it, and we can say filtered card. So we explain it saying filtered card with the car code. So we filtered by this car code, and this car code is not the headquarters vendor, so we just throw it away. I will open the other atom. So I go to my demo web PO to SBO, atom 4, and I open it to edit it. So I print it, and then you see I have my final transformation here. I just made it ready to copy all the code, and then I have my variable. I need to close this final atom result, print it. Then I have here my definition of the variable coming from message, body, payload, S, BOM, BO, documents, row, car code. And then the message for the skipping the message will be filtered card with the sender card code variable value. Just save it. Now we need only to do this final step in order to have the message ready to be sent to Business One. In the final step, because it is coming after an branch, we can call this generate template method that will be preparing the transformation to correct after branch. So to merge the information coming from the different messages. So you could have different paths, and the message could go through the different paths, and then in the final atom you need to take the information from the different ones and create the result message. So this final atom will need to take the information from the original message, and when it will be generated automatically, all these parts will be auto-generated, what means it will be copying from all the branches and creating a role R that will be the one that will have the transformation. So we will create a BFA branch per each one of the paths we have. Our transformation right now, it looks like a normal transformation with this transform part, the R, there's no branch there. If we run now, we go to final, modify, and then we call generate template, and then we say correct after branch. Okay, successfully corrected. Save it, and close it. Now I go one more time to that final, and you see that I have a copy of select BFA unbranch message body. So it's taking everything from the body and it's copying it here, so you have it ready to be used. Okay? And then in your transformation you will have to decide how you mix all the messages coming and how you create the receiver message. In our final transformation, because our transformation is exclusive, so it will go either to the path, either to the otherwise, we just go to the unbranch, message, body, payload, final atom result. So we put our code, all our transformation, we put it, the message for Business One, we put it inside final atom result. So we copy everything that is inside the final atom result. So in both cases, either when we create the sales order or when we ignore the message, in both cases we had a final atom result, and then we copy simply in the receiver message what is inside this final atom result. If we had several paths and we want to go through the different paths, we should do an XSLT transformation, taking into account the different messages we have, and then making a mix to create the receiver message. So let me copy that code. That is simply that line, because the unbranch part has been automatically generated. So I go to XML transform, and I need to open now the atom 0 that corresponds to the final transformation. I go to design, web PO2SO, atom 0, and I edit it. So you see I have my BFA unbranch here for my message. And then here I have my transformation, where I can copy just my transformation that will be select from the unbranch, message, body, payload, final atom result. We can just test it one more time from here. Here we have our whole path going to the sales order transformation, and now after the final, you see now we have the header, we still have the event, of course, the sender, the global table transformation, the atom 3 that was corresponding to the sales order transformation here with the final atom result, and then you see that we have the role R now, that is what is going to be sent to Business One, and here we have BO and BO with the whole information we copied, like car code, reference 1, reference 2 was empty, comment was empty, doc due date, NUMAT card, and the document lines, I just have one. This is what is going to be sent. In the debug it is not sent to Business One, it's just to debug our code, it's not to see what is created really in Business One. So the debug phase for me is finished. We already did that, so we did the step activation, we set the sender system, that was the subsidiary, the receiver system, that was the headquarters, and we did the data management, where we defined our global table information, and we said that for the headquarters system the identifier is headquarters B1if, and for the subsidiary company the business partner will be sub1. So we have done all the steps, we can activate it. So now it is active, and now we can directly go to Business One and test it. We can go to the control page and visualize that it is already active. So I have my demo web B12B1, I have all my other deactivated. Here you can see the whole information with the processing steps that is also opening the transformation. So you can still see everything after you have defined it. You have here the trigger is B1 event 22, and here the receiver is a DI object insert update with number 17 for sales order. So here is our scenario active. Now I will go to my subsidiary again, and let's create a new one. I will create it one more time for my headquarters company. Let me put some remarks, some comments. So this is an intercompany PO. I create one first item with quantity 1, second item with quantity 2. I have my price, etc. So I can just add it, and then this time we are doing a real test, and we can go to the monitoring again, and then event monitor first of all, to see that we have received the event. We have one new purchase order event received at 11:01 just right now, with new doc entry 276 coming from company SBO B1if and 22 for purchase order. We can now go to the message log, display refresh. So we have our failure one was the one before, we did at 10:13. Now we have a new one, SBO B1if, that is indexed successful, and is going to be sent to the headquarters company SBO Demo US. So now if we go to our SBO Demo US and we go to the sales order and we look for the latest one, we see that we have one sales order for the subsidiary company. Here we see that the customer reference number is the number of the purchase order in the subsidiary, that was 276. Same doc number and doc entry. We have the two lines with quantity 1 and 2. So we have the remarks that were copied from the other one, intercompany PO. We can also test to create a purchase order with a different vendor than the headquarters. So this one should be filtered. And then go to the event monitor. The event monitor should let it pass. Here we have the purchase order for 277 now. Then in the message log, now it should have been ignored, that message. So if we go now to the filter, we have one message coming from SBO B1if number 22. The receiver is SBO Demo US, but it is filtered because the card is V10,000 and we were expecting for headquarters B1if, business partner. So this one is simply filtered, nothing has been sent to the SBO Demo US. Our exercise is now finished. Thank you for attending the integration framework of SAP Business One Training B1 to B1 exercise.